arguments for why they're good in the meta, and I just don't know what comes in after that. We've seen Jax fail. Have we seen another? I actually can't even think of another top lane. Maybe Aatrox. I guess we've seen that kind of fail. Maybe we go back to the Ornns or the tanks, but well, at least it's not going to be Renekton. We do have that answer here as some of the bans start to come through. Udyr taken off the table. It's interesting to see that continue to rise in popularity, even in ban phase here from blue side. But Udyr, Renekton, Olaf, Seraphine all make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big top laner that we've kind of been missing out on is Camille here in Academy, right? Because she has so much dive potential. She's actually really good against Nara, and that is interesting, actually. The Pantheon blue side ban is rather surprising, and it tells me that C9 don't really play it. Because normally that's something we reserve for the red side so that blue team can't pick it up. And if you're going to be banning it as the blue side, it means that you have something else that you're really prioritizing and don't want to give it over, or you just can't play it yourself. And that's a little bit worrying to me because this champion is easy and strong. And hey, look, it's Camille.
Wow, it is the Camille. Nara's still on the table, so we could see
you cannot pick
at least the Yordle matchup. But it's interesting that Camille's that choice that they highly prioritized over something like that Pantheon, because Camille's a little one-dimensional in the playstyle. You know, even going like Dignitas already know what's going to happen on the top side of the map, right? It's not like there's a lot of versatility in what a Camille can do. So Dig's answer, I think it could just be the Aphelios Thresh if they just want to lock in that strong bot side. It goes against the recommendation I had of the double Moonstone bot lane, but hey, I mean, it's the power combo for red side right now, so they do lock it in.
It is, yeah. It does have a lot of freedom, but it is a little bit scary to me with things like the Galio still available. Camille Galio can lock down Aphelios, and there is no escape from that if executed properly, and that makes it very dangerous for Spawn to exist in some of these team fights. And with already picking the Camille, you said it was a little bit one-dimensional. I very much agree, because it says to me that Cloud9 are likely going to be looking for some kind of dive, and the Syndra is interesting. It is a strong pick, and Copy has shown some proficiency with it, but I don't know if it fits with the one other champion that they picked.
I don't hate the combination with the Camille. What I'm more confused about is the fact that Cloud9 is just so willing to blind pick their solo laners this early on. I more expected an answer to the Aphelios Thresh before Dignitas has the opportunity to kind of ban some of these out. So there we do see the Kai'Sa coming in. So that at least is the AD carry locked in, and there are a lot of supports right now you can pair that with. The Leona, even a Nautilus if you want to go a little deeper into those engaged supports. Alistar's great right now too. So Dignitas can't ban out all the supports that pair well with her, but still, the Syndra lock-in, now Dignitas has the choice of what they want to play into that. And I actually would love this Gragas here. We've seen Gragas top lane absolutely pop off through LCS, through LPL, LCK. Like, every region is playing this right now. And yeah, I think that it also plays into Lorlo's strengths.
Yeah, and it's definitely a skill matchup too. Generally, you're going to see a Night Harvester Gragas up in the top lane against the Camille. And the big thing is that, unlike a lot of champions, Gragas has a way to get out of the Hextech Ultimatum. You just throw the barrel at your feet, and suddenly Camille's on the outside of the circle and can't keep you on the inside. So that's pretty good coming out from Lorlo right now. And the other big thing that we haven't really touched on is it's flexible. You can also throw this over to Acadian and suddenly have a very powerful ganking jungler right off the bat. So far, I've been really liking this Dignitas draft, whereas Cloud9, I have to see how they're going to round this out, because so far it seems like they have a couple of disparate pieces that aren't going to be working together quite as well.
I'm mostly looking at that top side because you mentioned the AP build for the Gragas. That Zonius puts in so much value just getting the Seeker's Arm Guard against AD comps. So I was expecting probably an AP jungler to help deal with that. And then Dignitas could ban out things like the Nidalee. They could ban out things like the Lilia as well. But they go for the Hecarim. This also makes a lot of sense, though, because Hecarim plus Kai'Sa plus Camille, that's a lot of dive. And you want to keep this Aphelios alive. And the Aurelia ban coming in here from Cloud9 Academy, giving some respect to the solo lane hard carry. But okay, Lilia does make sense. I'm expecting most likely a Nidalee pick here, unless Dignitas just want to grab it themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because the Nidalee, with the Moonstone kind of builds, can be really active early on the map. And so far, there's decent gank assist in the lanes that we see. And later on, he's going to transition to helping out Aphelios pretty heavily. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cadian chooses to pick it right now, and it would give some issues over to Cloud9 Academy because they banned most of the other junglers that you're going to be seeing this spot, like the Udyr, which has become a pretty popular counterpick to this.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go for AP jungle to match that top lane, there's not a lot on the table, but they do still have the Syndra, and Kais also provides some AP damage, so I don't think that Cloud9 Academy is really hungry for an AP jungler right now, but you're right. Overall, the pool has been pinched. Udyr, Graves, Hecarim, Lilia, Talia, Olaf, that's 6 jungle bans, plus, even like if you want to consider Gragas in there, plus an Italy, okay, and we get the Nocturne. Hey, if they wanted a dive comp, they sure as hell got it here. Cloud9 Academy with a kind of out of left field pick, but I do like it for their composition.
Yeah, it did just receive some buffs on the newest patch, so it's a little bit stronger than it used to be, but it tends to be seen a bit more in the mid lane than the jungle at this point. And so I'm kind of curious how well Aphelios is actually going to survive, because that, as you said, that is a lot of upfront damage coming out from Cloud9 Academy between the Camille and the Nocturne, and then layering it on with the Kai'Sa and Leona. Suddenly, Spawn's going to have a very difficult time actually surviving in this game. And all right, coming out with the Gragas Yone, and then Nidalee, you have some pseudo peel tools which are decently effective, but it's very difficult to deal with all of these divers going through. And after Aphelios goes down, I worry that the Dignitas roster will simply not have enough damage to clean up the rest of the members.
Yeah, I do not like this last pick here from Dignitas Academy. The Yone last pick, I wanted something else that can help the Aphelios, because there's so much Cloud9's trying to do to get on Aphelios. If he had even something like an Orianna right here that could just help him out with the shield, the shockwave for the peel, just the zoning potential of that can really help Spawn come up in these fights. But I guess this is also Dignitas playing away from Spawn, saying, okay, there's maybe too much to deal with now, considering there's like 4 champions that can just jump onto Aphelios, so we need a secondary threat. I guess best case scenario, Yasui can assassinate Copy or just jump onto that Syndra, but we're ready to hop into the game. We'll see what happens here at Dignitas Academy and Cloud9 Academy. Definitely giving us some unique drafts, some cool champions to watch. The Nocturne coming out, its first game in Academy. I don't know, do you think this is the first game of Nocturne in any major region so far this year? I haven't seen it in the jungle anywhere.
That's a good question, but luckily for us, we do have the ability to go look it up and report back.
We'll check the stats and get back to everybody as we load into the early game here. The first start on the Rift for both of these teams. Cloud9 Academy, they didn't draft the Moonstone bot lane. They didn't have the opportunity to, as Seraphine was banned away. So let's see if they're able to pull off this different style of composition. It's reminiscent of what they did with the Jax pick, where they had the TF mid lane to back him up. But this time around, I don't think it's going to be about the split push. It's not Camille in the side lane. It's about diving Spawn and how well Spawn is going to be able to absorb that pressure and then answer back. So I'm looking at JJ. I'm looking at Lorlo. These are big peel tools with the Thresh and the Gragas, but when these team fights do break out, it's going to be chaotic, Joshi. But it's not going to be team fighting at the get-go. So let's take this early game to talk about what expectations are and where we expect each team to put their focus in the first couple minutes, because I think there are some volatile lanes that both teams could look to get ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This top lane, we touched on it before, Darshan versus Lorlo. It's favored in Darshan just based on the players and how they've been playing so far, and seeing that Lorlo has gone with the Grasp of the Undying in order to be a little bit tankier later on in the game and have some decent trades means that Darshan's going to have an easier time sticking to him and actually beating him up if he does choose to go with like the Sunfire or something. We're already seeing fighting in the bottom lane.
Yeah, JJ using that Flay to get away from Isles. Actually took the Guardian on the Thresh, so not having that Aftershock, but still they get a pretty decent trade. Top lane, you can mention Darshan versus Lorlo. I was also looking at that mid lane, because both of these mid laners have a lot of burst potential and ability to, kill their lane opponent, and both of them have junglers that are mixed damage types. So I see mid lane as being actually a pretty volatile matchup in this game.
I agree, and I think the bigger thing that kind of touches off of that is, while it's volatile, it's also one of Dignitas' major ways to stem some of the bleeding. If Yusui is a major damage threat on top of the fact that Spawn is already playing this Aphelios, suddenly diving the Aphelios becomes less interesting, because you also have to deal with Yusui looking to trade backlines and kill Copy relatively easily, because nobody else is going to be paying attention to what Copy is doing in a lot of these fights. So I really looking forward to seeing how Acadian wants to roam, but so far, both of these junglers going for a full clear, and I feel like that kind of supports how Surenfire wants to play, right? Nocturne is a
Oh, yeah.
little bit more ultimate reliant than the Nidalee, and with the gank assist coming through on in just about every lane, Acadian is saying, hey, as people start to get stronger, I still think I'm going to be having a little bit more freedom to play on the map after Nocturne gets his ult.
Yeah, Surenfire clearly wants to hit that level 6 as quickly as possible, but the thing about the Nocturne Nidalee is I do favor the clear slightly to the Nidalee, but I mean, so far Surenfire is actually directly on pace with the Acadian, so I might just be incorrect there. Does get that scuttle even early, so now going for that first gank onto Yasui here. The stun goes through. Yasui's in so much trouble. Yeah, who gets the kill? It's Surenfire. Donated that first blood, and a pretty easy gank pulled off.
Yeah, that is a bit of a disaster coming out for Dignitas. We already touched on the fact that Yasui needs to be strong to pull pressure away from Spawn later on, but also the fact that the kill goes over to Nocturne means that he's going to accelerate in terms of this EXP, and honestly, this is a pretty standard play, right? Both junglers are going to full clear. They're going to meet in the middle. You might expect Nidalee to come out of the bottom side of the river at this point, but Yasui is just too far pushed up, doesn't have the vision necessary to protect from Surenfire, and he goes down before Nidalee has an opportunity to even respawn. And that's kind of one of the things that we've been a little bit worried about with Dignitas is they aren't necessarily playing as a full team just quite yet. They're still very focused on individual plays.
And, I mean, you could just look at Yasui's positioning there to read that. He was positioned on the top half of the map in the mid lane there when his jungler was on the bot half. They should have been communicating, hey, there's a potential scuttle take, but there may be a scuttleful in the bottom side. Hook goes wide, actually hits a minion, so Dignitas cannot find that re-engage. Cloud9 trying to take advantage of being level 4. And this is a lane that we really haven't touched on yet, Joshi, but also volatility. Man, all of these lanes, like, they're just ticking time bombs, right? If the right play happens, crazy things can follow. If this Leona finds the engagement, now it's Acadian on the bot half. Isles could be in trouble here. Flash forward by Spawn with the root. The hook follow-up by JJ, and King will go down. Spawn getting that kill. Beautifully executed by Dignitas. I love that killer instinct.
Yeah, I really like the way that Dignitas actually set up this play. With the way that the wave was coming in, they were threatening to freeze it up against King and Isles, which would have given them a massive CS and experience advantage, and it led them to be in this very dangerous position, right? They want to try and break this freeze. They see that he's got it right there, but they can't break it without getting vision first, and hey, who's there right in time as they're going to go try and get some wards down? It's Acadian. He's there to lock down multiple people. Aphelios tags one of them with the root, and suddenly it's incredibly easy for JJ to land the follow-up hook, and so far, this has been one of the cleanest plays from Dignitas, and it kind of a bit of a set-piece play with a lot of communication going on that I feel like makes me eat my words a bit right off the bat.
Exactly. I mean, I was critical of Spawn going into this game thinking, okay, this is the player that I haven't really seen step up on Dignitas, but the Flash Graviton, like, that's some confident play right there to say, no, we're going right now. And good follow-up from JJ, of course. It was 2 flashes for King's Flash, but worth it for the kill. If this Aphelios can get ahead, really comfortable position going into the mid-game then, because one of the big win conditions of Dignitas and Cloud9 Academy need to be thinking, okay, the goal is still to blow up Aphelios, but if he's got a couple kills under his belt, if he's a few levels up, has those items, he's suddenly a lot scarier to jump on top of.
Yeah. I want to point out something interesting that's been happening as well on the opposite side of the map. And it looks, you're not going to be able to see it as plainly as you would even just a couple of seconds ago, but Darshan currently down in CS. But this is because he's actually backed twice already in the lane. He backed once to pick up the call, he backed a second time to pick up the Sheen in order to try and generate a item disparity between himself and Lorlo without using his teleport. And while he is technically ever so slightly ahead in gold at this point, it means that he was significantly behind in experience for a good portion of this, and it ends up kind of being a wash. And I feel like Darshan kind of put himself a little bit behind where he otherwise ought to be because he wanted to try and develop this advantage and wasn't really able to do so. So just one of those interesting things that you see with more advanced top lane players as they try and get a lot of these backs in to try and find these small advantages, but sometimes they don't quite work out. It's just kind of like that confidence and style of playing that we expect from the highest level players in Academy that I'm impressed by and disappointed that we're not going to see a big advantage because of it.
Fair enough. Darshan playing that weak side, just going for the scaling with that Cole. Even if it's not working out exactly how I expected, but we did see that Dragon picked up there by Cloud9 Academy. Weak side top lane means that their jungler can be elsewhere on the map, and King Isles, despite giving up that kill over to spawn, had the confidence, pushed in bot side, roamed up to get that objective. So first dragon picked up now by Cloud9 Academy. They find themselves with just the slightest of gold leads as well. And this is a big moment in the game where we got to track this Rift Herald. We've seen the return of the 9-minute Rift Herald plays here, Joshi. This is 8 minutes in. But will bot laners roam up? We actually do see Spawn and JJ. Dignitas is going for the full rotation. Darshan could be in some trouble too. He uses the Hextech Ultimatum top lane onto Lorlo. So without Darshan there, I don't think Surenfire can continue. Yeah. They have to give up that Rift Herald. Wait, yeah, okay, it is resetting. Yeah, Dignitas do get the full rotation and should claim this objective.
Yeah, it's kind of big that this happens, right? Darshan ends up losing a trade. You see that both the ultimates were used. He has a teleport available, and he's actually going to be committing it. And this is going to be the opportunity for Surenfire to use his first ultimate of the game, and it has to be successful.
This is where the dive composition comes in. They actually go onto the mid lane instead. Oh no, Yasui! Doesn't get over the wall. Surenfire picks up the kill. Cloud9 Academy win the fight before it even begins with a pick on the mid laner, and now Dignitas have to disengage. They can no longer try and 4v5 this Rift Herald. Cloud9 will probably be the ones to get it now. I'm just going to stop saying who's going to get the objective because it just keeps going back and forward.
Yeah, that was rough too. Really good job to Surenfire for going in and flashing after Yasui instantly, and he got rewarded for it because he was able to get the fear before Yasui got over the wall, keeping him next to it and actually locking him down and taking him out of the animation. And it is going to get them a really big reward across the map because the rest of the map is kind of going relatively even. The big difference now is going to be this jungle and this mid laner, which we already identified needed to go in favor of Dignitas in order for them to have ways to peel people off of spawn, and that is not happening, Kingus.
Yasui finds himself 0-2 on the Yone pick. This was their 5th pick on the red side, meant to be the linchpin of this team composition. And yeah, you're right, Joshi, kind of falling flat right now. I don't see Yone really coming online for like at least 6-7 more minutes, right? Like he's just gonna be walking toward in the mid lane catching waves. Meanwhile, Copy already got the Seeker's Arm Guard building up towards this first mythic item and just will provide so much more pressure when combined with the Nocturne. Dignitas just didn't really get much out of Yone in this early game, and Cloud9 Academy, Surenfire having a very good first ultimate. Oftentimes the Nocturne kind of is made or broken based on that first ult, and definitely paid off that time around. But we find a lane swap happening here. Lorlo and Darshan move to the bottom half of the maps, while the bot laners go up to the top half. And there's really no big objectives to take, so I'm expecting this to be a fairly quiet part of the game for the next few minutes here.
Yeah, it'll be quiet for a couple minutes, but I think the thing that I'm worried about, King, is what happens when it suddenly stops being quiet when this next dragon spawns. Like, Dignitas are going to be fairly behind the curve in terms of itemization. They're not going to have an opportunity to pick up this dragon, and one of the big things... Oh, no. Dear.
Okay, yep, that... No, keep going, Josh.
Well, yeah. Nobody important died, and that's going to give a huge advantage over to Cloud9. Not only they're going to be able to drop this Rift Herald, pick up this mid lane turret, but they'll also be able to turn that into dragon advantages, put them at 2 dragons on the map, and we touched on Acadian. Maybe he's going to be supportive and try and help out Spawn with like a Moonstone. Instead, he's going to be going towards a Night Harvester so he can provide some damage, but I feel like it's a little bit too little too late for them to actually try and make that decision. They have to kind of index into Spawn, who is going to be their only real damage threat later on.
And that's a rough position to be in, because again, imagine if you were Spawn thinking, I'm the win condition, but at least I got an Orianna mid lane. Nope, you got an 0-3 Yone, who isn't going to be providing too much at this point, so there's less tools for Spawn to stay safe, and still just as many tools on Cloud9 Academy to dive onto that AD cure. Yeah, he's got Cleanse, yeah, he's got a Thresh support with Exhaust, but that can only do so much against the Camille, Nocturne, Kai'Sa, Leona, even Syndra with some of that range stun. Dignitas are going to find this game very, very difficult.
Okay, alright, I actually really like this. Yeah, from Dignitas. They recognize that Surenfire's ultimate should still be on cooldown. They see Kai'Sa up in the top lane. They're the first ones to rotate. And this, while it doesn't really give Dignitas much of a win condition, it slows down the Cloud9 win condition of picking up this Mountain Soul later on in the game. And is really cool. It's just a really good rotation that I don't think a lot of teams would have been ready to make. So Dignitas already looking way better as a macro team than we were initially expecting.
I mean, you also talk about it not being the biggest win condition for them, but if they can keep stacking these, that's a big if, but if they can, that's Mountain Soul Shield will be great against the burst here of Cloud9 Academy. It really helps Spawn stay alive. The extra armor and magic resist on Lorlo will be felt too, but here we see Dignitas going for the bot side of the map, but the play is made by Cloud9 Academy. They jump out of Spawn. He's still alive. They can't quite kill the Aphelios. There's only 2 champions on him, and the peel is too strong. Spawn stays alive. Acadian gets the kill, and Dignitas turn the play around.
You know what I hate about this Kangas?
Oh, no, Lorlo keeps the fight going. We'll talk about that later, Josh, as another kill goes up to Acadian. No, give them the Spawn. You got to get this 80 carry fed, Acadian. It's fine. At least Dignitas are getting the plays, and they turn around 2 attempts by Cloud9 to defend this turret.
Yeah, you know what I hate about this King is Copy and Isles were on the way. They were almost there. They're like halfway to this spot, right? Like, look at where Syndra is on the map, and imagine if this play happens 10 seconds later when you have a Syndra and a Leona who are now able to contribute damage, get stuns across the team, and do anything. Instead, they pull the gun a little bit early. They say, oh, I think I'm strong enough to go in 2v4, and hey, it doesn't really matter when there's this much crowd control on the other team. You lose 2 members, and Cloud9, I keep praising you for your team play and working as a team. That was a complete failure of what we were looking at and being so excited about at the beginning of the day.
Also, Copper with just the slightest of misplays. Use Unleash Power on JJ, almost full health Thresh instead of Spawn, who was in range and about a quarter health. I think he might have been able to get that kill. But micro decisions aside, the macro was the big call there, Josh. I'm happy you highlighted that. Cloud9 did not have vision on Lorlo. They didn't have vision on Acadian. All they saw was Spawn and JJ, and they thought, hey, we can take this 2v2. But Dignitas had the read, they had the backup, and they are playing this composition fairly well. I think that they've also identified, okay, the Yone win condition is gone. We're not playing around Yone. We need to back up Spawn, and we need to make sure he's safe. So Cloud9 Academy needed to understand that too and not make those kind of brazen plays going forward. Realize every single peel ability is going to be used to keep Spawn alive, and they got to play respecting that from Dignitas Academy.
Yeah, so we'll see how well they're able to do that. And the big worry that I kind of have is that they haven't necessarily been able to create a whole lot of vision advantages. You're noticing that across the map, most of the wards in the river are in favor of Dignitas as they look for Lorlo.
Yeah, Lorlo finds himself alone. He's a tanky Gragas, but with multiple members of Cloud9 around, he flashes away. Might still get out of this. The lantern to safety. JJ with the play as well. Oh, the hero support keeping Lorlo alive. That was a lot of cooldowns used by Cloud9 to make that pick, and they do not find it.
Yeah, this is really weird from Cloud9. They haven't really been able to go for a lot of these sure plays. They're like, oh, I think he might be out of position. And because they don't have the vision to know where everybody else is, they actually can't make that decision in an informed way. And they're using up a lot of these big things. We identified Nocturne's first ult as super important, but his second and third are also really important as well, and they haven't been having the same kind of success.
He's playing reverse NA Nocturne. Usually the first ult sucks, and then he just kind of falls off. But this time he was like, he showed a lot of promise. But the rest have been lacking. I mean, I understand the play. They almost had it. They get flash out of him, so at least there's that. And the Paranoia for Surenfire will be up relatively soon. It's not like the longest of cooldowns, and all they lost was that Rift Herald. So at least Dignitas do get the objective. That feels good on their end to help get some more gold back in their pocket. But if you're thinking, what's Cloud9's plan? What were they thinking there? They're thinking, we got this gold lead. We got 3 kills on Nocturne. We have to use that and find these plays. And if they're not going to find it on Spawn, maybe they can catch out Lorlo in a rotation. So we'll have to keep track. Where does Surenfire go next? Because his ultimate is already back up.
Yeah, and I think it's crucial to know what is also about to come up on the map. There's a dragon, and so this is an opportunity to find a fight first.
Yeah, they just jump right onto JJ, blow up the Thresh. No more repositioning ability for Spawn here. That's actually a huge pickup for Cloud9 because now Spawn's job in this next fight, if they want to contest for the dragon, is way harder. He is not safe. They might just have to give that up. So could just be a dragon secured there by Cloud9. I love to see this kind of play where they say there's an objective coming up. Let's make the pick before the objective so we don't have to do that awkward Academy dragon dance that we've grown so accustomed to. Instead, they say, nope, no fight. We just get the objective.
Yeah, that's exactly it at the very end, right? The sudden vision control that's going over to Cloud9 makes it super, super difficult for Dignitas to walk in at all. And it was a very small misstep from JJ. So it was a thing where I was a bit surprised to see them go for it just right off the bat, but Isles and Surenfire on the exact same page, able to do the same play at the same time, suddenly makes something that would be a little bit questionable normally and turns it into a really good play. And now, as we start to see the vision for Cloud9 get a little bit better, we also have to remark on the fact that Cloud9 almost have 2 Nocturnes on their team, right? They have the traditional Nocturne, but they also have King on this Kaisa, who can do something very, very similar to Spawn. And so it becomes very dangerous for a lot of these members to move individually on the map because they don't necessarily know when somebody's going to jump on them from over 1,000 range away. And one other thing that I want to talk about before I let you talk again, Kangas, is
okay, all right. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting, Josh. This
Waiting,
is giving me
yeah,
a good
yeah.
opportunity to just like hold my breath, fix my throat before the next fight breaks out. So keep going, man. You're doing great.
We got those breathing exercises. King opted for Kraken Slayer instead of the Gale Force, and it actually makes his burst potential lower throughout a lot of this because you don't have the execute damage that the Gale Force provides, and a little bit less safety. Overall, he's expecting to actually be able to just hit a lot of these members without a lot of threat, and I'm curious to see if he's going to be rewarded or punished for that based on how Dignitas is actually going to be playing these fights out.
I mean, you're talking about that item. As we quick recap, the Rift Herald was dropped mid lane by Dignitas Academy. They get an even trade of turrets now, so at least there's an open mid lane. I'm looking at the build here of Acadian, because I was promised that we're in a Moonstone meta, Josh, and I just want to point out, Acadian, you're going Conqueror with Night Harvester Nidalee. That ain't Moonstone. What's the deal here, Josh? Have you seen this build before? Because I actually haven't.
Well, the Night Harvester, yeah, you see it on Nidalee fairly often if you're going to try
Conqueror,
and
though?
opt into... maybe not with Conqueror, right? But the idea is you're just trying to create a lot of poke and prevent people from coming in because they're too low to dive. And it also makes your own dives very, very potent as we see him coming
Speaking
down
of
here.
diving,
See if Darshan can get out.
Yeah, Camille is slippery.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep that turret alive if possible, but Lorlo does pick it up, and Acadian was there for backup. The reason I wanted to highlight that is because the Moonstone Renewer would have made more sense for me to keep Spawn alive. The idea being you want more healing, you want more ability for this Aphelios to be the true carry, but Dignitas really not opting into that and saying, look, we just trust Spawn can manage it with his own tools as Darshan finds himself in a 1v1. Lorlo in a lot of trouble here. The Camille with Hextech Ultimatum. There's that cast to try and disengage, but Copy teleports in. Lorlo is going down, and Darshan gets a free kill in the side lane.
So remember at the very beginning of the game when I said you generally see a Night Harvester Gragas going up against the Camille? It's so that you can actually fight. You can't fight Camille when you don't do any damage because she does a lot of it and sticks to you very, very well. And I also want to highlight the fact that Darshan moved up against the wall so that he wasn't knocked away from the Hextech Ultimatum. He was still able to stay on top of Lorlo, and those small things end up rewarding him really heavily in what is Darshan's first kill participation in the 21 minutes of this game.
But he gets the kill, which I think is actually pretty important because this Camille with more gold on her, once you get in that 2 items, can really start to provide that extra bit of pressure onto the backline of Dignitas. Spawn and JJ can deal with Surenfire just fine, but now that Darshan's starting to get these kills, get this gold, has that Trinity Force, will probably get the completed Ravenous. Yep, there it is. That's so much more split push potential and then group potential of Darshan to just burst down Spawn. Dignitas, though, they're prioritizing control of the mid-wave, push that out. They're probably trying to set up this next dragon, getting vision control down here, and seeing if they can catch any members of Cloud9 out on rotation. But Cloud9, there's really no reason for them to be there, and they're happy to just grab these waves, wait for these big objectives to show up, and then do the exact same thing that they've been doing the whole time, catch somebody out in rotation, or just dive onto the backline.
Yeah, it's too early. It's too early to try and get all of this vision control because the dragon spawns in a minute about now. And that's going to give Cloud9 lots of opportunities to come in and move his 5, go ahead and get all these backs through. And you notice that every single one of them, except for the support, is on 2 items at this point. He gets over the wall.
JJ gets Surenfire over. Spawn could be in some trouble, but Lorlo is that front line. Attention turned on to JJ. The Thresh getting bursted down. He's still alive. Paranoia goes through, finally jumps onto the backline. JJ will fall. Fortrigger keeping Surenfire alive. Darshan joins in. Spawn's got so many threats to worry about. And despite Yasui getting a pretty cool ultimate right there, Cloud9 Academy say, we got the carry. We got the only threat eliminated. And Dignitas just gets slaughtered before the dragon spawns.
Yeah, and this should reward them with both of these major objectives. The dragon is spawning in a couple seconds. You drop Fire over there. You take everybody else. And you go start hitting this Baron, Kangas. And this is the problem with the composition that Dignitas have drafted, right? They try and go for this fight. They get a potential pick onto Fire right off the bat, but they aren't able to finish it out. And by the time everybody else shows up, Darshan has a flank. Fire always has access to the backline, and they immediately get back in there. And suddenly, Spawn has nowhere to go. He tries to flash away, but there is too much chase coming out from Cloud9. And you see.
Imagine if that Yone was like 4 kills instead of 0-4, but you know, that's an aside comment. I also just want to say, Spawn, I believe, I think I only counted 5 auto attacks. He got off that whole time. Did not have the proper weapons to actually fight in that moment. So while JJ, I mean, credit, hey, you found the hook. I don't think that the team was actually ready for that pick. They could have waited a little bit, and that's what we've seen from Dignitas going into this, is that they keep making these engages when it's not the best time to do so. Oh, Joshi, it looks like you're back. I think we had a slight disconnect right there, so I'll pass it to you. You finish up your thought. Okay, looks like you're still not back on the call yet, Joshi, so I'm just going to keep talking and filling in some time while we figure out the tech issues that are going on right there. The point that I was making is, we saw this yesterday too, where Dignitas, they try and make these engages happen, usually around JJ, where JJ will find somebody, but the rest of the team is not ready to follow up, which makes it kind of awkward. And I'm getting confirmation that you are back now, Joshi, so I'll stop talking. I think people have heard enough of my voice. Let's hear some more of yours.
All right, it's a pretty good voice for taking over that. It is such a dominant position now for Cloud9, right? They pick up everything, and suddenly all of these inner territories has been slowly looking at for a while are suddenly going to go down. It's looking pretty darn scary for Dignitas. This is something that Fire is doing that I actually really like and like to go ahead. Once you have the damage necessary to kill people, start indexing to keeping yourself alive. You're already winning. Not give your opponent.
Also just chasing down onto the jungler. Arcadian in a lot of trouble again. Does go golden, trying to stay alive. Maybe he survives under turret. Darshan wants to say no, but barely picks it up. Meanwhile, in the top left of the map, we see more action as Spawn also goes golden, trying to stay alive as the Cephalius just can't get that damage out. Is he going to survive? Trying to drain tank through it, but it's not meant to be. The rest of Cloud9 Academy finally regroup from the tower dive. Join in. It's just the tanks left alive. JJ will fall as well. Lorlo, the only one left. And this whole time, King wasn't even with them. He was just split pushing in the top wave with this Baron buff. This is going to be multiple turrets, probably multiple inhibitors going over to Cloud9 Academy, and just another dominating team fight with this squad. We talked about it for so long, from Champ Select, from the moment we loaded in. This game would be decided on if Spawn can stay alive throughout these team fights, and so far, they've had a couple cool ones, but overall, Cloud9 Academy are finding their opportunities to dive in here. Joshi, I still don't have confirmation if you're back on the call yet. Sorry, everybody, for the tech delays, so I'll just keep talking here as let's recap how Cloud9 found this. It's yet again Acadian just in the jungle. You see he's trying to buy time, jumping on a copy, which is his job, but he just doesn't have the damage to take him out. So then the rest of the team joins in. Copy, he took half his health from the Yone, but then just says, okay, I can just output all this DPS. And it's actually just Isles that tanks Spawn for so long right there, while Copy eventually does come back in. Dignitas, it's such a difficult position to be in, but you can't be caught out in the jungle like that when Cloud9 has this kind of composition. Nowhere is safe, which means all you can do is try and catch these side lanes. But Joshi, were you watching that also? Did you catch that? Because I feel like that was such a chaotic fight. I need some help to actually know what exactly happened there.
Yeah, I wish I could help you, brother, but I didn't see almost any of it, unfortunately. I do see that Cloud9 is looking very strong, and I think that's
really all you need to know.
Yeah. The results are, you can just like put a black screen over the fight like that, but ultimately, here's what's happening. Yep, Baron buff. Might go down just a little bit, but they have all of their major buttons ready to go once again. And with Dragon spawning very soon, it becomes incredibly dangerous for Dignitas to even try and walk over to this.
Cloud9 Academy win the fight. They have control over Summoner's Rift, but they did not break an inhibitor. I thought that they would be able to because they still had the Baron buff up. They had the death timers to try and push in and at least get one. But Dignitas can walk away from that saying, yeah, we've lost a couple fights in a row, but at least our base is not broken yet. It's just they don't really have anything else but the base at this point. That jungle is lit up by Cloud9, and it belongs to Cloud9 as Dragon is spawning. This is Dragon Soul. Dignitas, if they just give this, that's pretty much game over. So they're going to have to look for some kind of contest. We'll see if they're able to find it, though. I don't think the answer is there, as Lorlo finds himself yet again in the side lane, engaged on by Cloud9 Academy. It's sad. It's sad to see. Lorlo, he's a tank. He's like, I should be able to survive this. Not when there's 3 members that can dive on top of you. They didn't even need to group up for that Dragon. Dignitas just give it over. That's Dragon Soul secured by Cloud9 Academy. As I guess Dignitas clear their top half of the jungle, try and get some vision around Baron, but Cloud9 say, we do not need Baron to end this game. We have Dragon Soul. We have a 5v4 for the next 25 seconds, and we can just take these inhibitors. Diving under turret, JJ has to flash away. Really tough position right now. It's going to be on Spawn. You got to watch this Aphelios. How is Spawn going to survive here? He already uses the Lantern. King jumps in, trying to get damage, almost bursts him down completely. That's 1 inhibitor down, 2 inhibitors down for Cloud9 Academy. Oh, okay, now 2 down for Cloud9 Academy as they start to dive the Nexus turrets. I was close. Now the final dive here from Cloud9. There's just nothing Dignitas can do. They're fighting back as best they can. Spawn's trying to get these auto attacks off, but he's got nobody to peel for him anymore. Lorlo, the frontliner, has got golden. Spawn almost gets deleted by 1 rotation of copy without even using ultimate. Acadian running back. They're hiding in their fountain. Spawn almost takes out King. I think he does get him. 1 last auto will take him out, but the Nexus is the focus from Cloud9, and they will take their victory 3-1 at the end of week 2.
Woo. All right, I think we're all good as we're back, but wow, Cloud9 looking really, really good throughout this game. We had a couple of questions about them towards the beginning, towards the early parts of the mid-game, but they really cleaned it up and are like, okay, we're done taking these 50-50s, these 60-40s. Let's only go for players that we are very confident will work, because we know Yasui is only technically loaded onto the Rift. You didn't really have a whole lot of impact about that whole thing. That means we only have 1 person we need to pay attention to, and Spawn, he looks about as good as he could have, considering the situation.
Spawn did give best effort, and I'm going to say Yasui did as well. It's just the problem is, when Yasui would get on top of Copy, he didn't have any threat. Like, we saw what happened in that one fight. Well, I guess you didn't actually catch that fight, but he was able to get a 1v1 against Copy. He dove onto the Sidra, did half her health, and then had to jump back. Did not have the damage, did not have the impact needed to really pull off that composition or what the Yone was supposed to do there. I feel like Dignitas, they got to go back to the drawing board with that draft. I think that if they had just gone all in on the Aphelios composition, they would have set themselves up for more success, or at least try and play around the Yone when they had the opportunities to. But well done, Cloud9 Academy. They silenced me as a doubter. I thought, look, they looked great with the Moonstone compositions. How do they look when they don't get those? And hey, this was a great performance with another very unique composition.
Yeah, I really like what they're able to do. It's a really good pivot from them overall, and I think it has been showing a lot as to why Cloud9 are kind of my team to watch right now, as not, I wouldn't say far and away the best team in Academy, but definitely in the conversation for best team right now, and it's because of this versatility that they're able to show and how much experience all of their players are really going to bring to the table, because they were able to clean it up, right? Like, after a couple Nocturne ultimates that didn't really have a whole lot of effect, it was just things like, all right, calm down. We're still winning. We're still in a good position. Let's continue to play this the way we're supposed to play our composition, and suddenly we're able to dominate the rest of the game.
I love it when teams don't need Baron to end as well. I think that that's one of the big marks of if a team knows how to close out the game. So congratulations, Cloud9 Academy. We're going to send it over to a short break before we're back with an interview with the jungler Schernfire. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this. Hello and welcome back, everybody, as we're getting ready for Game 2 of the day for LCS Academy Week 2, Day 2. But before that, let's just do a quick recap, Joshi, of what we just saw in that Game number 1. Cloud9 Academy having a pretty impressive performance and coming back from a couple awkward plays as they were transitioning to the mid-game, but staying strong and closing out stronger.
Yeah, Cloud9 looking really good pretty much across the map. It took people a little bit to wake up for every single position, but by the time they did, there was not a whole lot left for their opponents to really do because their composition just wasn't able to function in quite the same way. And it's part of why Cloud9 is going to be looking really good across the season. To talk about it a little bit more, we got a special guest.
We do have a guest, one of the key players in that composition, playing one of the champions that was needed for them to pull it off. We got the jungler Schernfire coming in here. Welcome, Schernfire, to the show. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
Nocturne as a jungle pick, pretty spicy right now. That jungle pool was pinched very, very tight, but you still managed to put together a pretty cool composition. So talk me through that draft phase and what really made you pivot towards the Nocturne specifically.
I just think that I guess it's just fun for 10 junglers to be banned. I think it's, oh, not 10, but a lot of junglers to be banned. Is like, it just made the game really interesting. It's where you have to like show how big your champion pool is. So I feel like, yeah, that's how I felt like, oh, I should just pick Nocturne here because, you know, almost every jungler's banned. So
yeah, I thought it was really cool seeing it come out because it was actually the third appearance currently in the spring 2021 season and its first
really?
win. So congratulations to you on that. Yeah. The interesting thing to me though. Yeah, no, you're the first win, not quite the first play, but you can at least take that to heart.
I'll take that.
The other thing that I was kind of excited about were your first couple of showings on the Rift, interacting with other champions were really successful, catching out the mid laner a couple of times. And then I think it was like the second and third ult stopped being as successful. So could you talk me through a little bit about how the mentality shifted once you saw you aren't, you're super strong, but you can't just go win 1v4?
Okay, so, I mean, I play a lot of Nocturne in solo queue. Well, not a lot, but I did a different build, so I feel like the mentality has to be wrong. I just have to accept that Sterex and Gold Drink is just too OP, and then you just build that and you just have to play differently. But my mistakes were my mistakes, but you know, those items you just have to just tank everything and do less damage, but you're just still OP. So I think that's my advice. Yeah, that's my advice for solo queue, at least for Nocturne. I know you guys wanted one-shot people, but I think it's still better to go Sterex Gore.
Well, thank you, Schernfire, for saving our NA junglers in solo queue. I'm hoping to see more Bruiser Nocturnes going forward. We've seen a lot of different looks from Cloud9 now. You know, you're the team that showed us the double Moonstone bot lane. You played that twice. You also tried that Jack split pushing style with the TF backing him up. And now we see this like 4 diving champs just hard shut down the enemy AD carry kind of style. So those are 3 very distinct styles out of an academy roster. Who's really guiding this? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the players? Are you just all that comfortable with your flexibility? You know, why are we seeing so many different styles this early in the season from an academy team?
First of all, I mean, shout out to West, our coach. I feel like a lot of coaches try to control what the players want to play, and I feel like West enables us to do whatever we want, like with a little bit of guideline in there. But honestly, we play too much shit. Honestly, I feel like we play too much stuff, so I feel like we're not actually. It's fun, but it's at the same time I don't think we're excelling a lot. Like our one loss to COG, I feel like one of the issues was we're playing too much stuff, so we're not actually getting good at one thing, getting really good at one thing. But I think we're still in an experimental phase where we're just still trying to find what works for us consistently. But right now, yeah, we're just doing everything.
Very cool. Well, is there anything else you want to say to the fans, anybody watching at home, or any shout outs you want to give?
Yes, shout out to all the homies at home, and also shout out to the people downstairs watching this right now in the Cloud9 house. And yeah, thank you guys.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Schernfire, for coming on. Great interview, and hey, congratulations on the win, ending strong in week 2. Best of luck going into week 3 next week. And that's it for the interview. We're gonna send it over to another short break while we get ready for our next game of the day. We got Team Liquid Academy taking on Evil Geniuses Academy. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more League of Legends action.